when I found out about anthropology, I realized it was something I had always wanted to study. I just didn't know it existed as a discipline. And so I'd say I chose anthropology because I've always been very curious. Throughout my childhood, I used to watch a ton of documentaries about human history, about design, about animals, and then I initially signed up for human sciences. I went to an open day just before first year started, so in July. Quickly realized human sciences is not what I wanted to do. No offense to anyone who's a human scientist here. And I spoke to some anthropologists and I was like, that's what I thought human sciences was going to be. So thankfully, quickly switched over and I've never looked back. Anthropology is the best degree I could have ever studied. And I say that for a few reasons, and hopefully I'll explain throughout the presentation. When Hannah asked me what my title would be, I said an entrepreneur, and some of you may have been wondering, what does that mean? I'm still exploring the definition of that, but I came up with the term 2 years ago when I was interning at Airbnb in San Francisco, and as I'll touch on in a bit, I came up with a project that I presented to two of the co-founders of Airbnb, and I titled it An Entrepreneur in Residence. And so I wanted to couple anthropological insights with product design and see how we could use those insights to create new things. So yeah, that relates to the product that I'm now working on. So a bit of context, I'm in my last year now. Before this, I studied abroad at Harvard, where I also picked up computer science. So I studied anthropology, computer science, engineering science, and design. I'm writing my dissertation on social mobility. So I'm looking at the lived experiences of people who simultaneously occupy spaces of privilege and poverty. I'm looking at what their lived experience is. And I'm also advising a new university that's launching in London next year called the London Interdisciplinary School. That's predicated on an idea that students shouldn't have to go to university to study a specific degree discipline, but instead should go to university to try and solve problems and then borrow a range of disciplines in order to help them solve these problems. So I also took last year out, so I'm technically in my 5th year. And during my year out, I felt like I needed that time to really digest what anthropology means to me and where I want to take it. Because I think sometimes you can just get on this conveyor belt of university and think 1 year, like first year, second year, third year, and then you're out, and then before you know it might be out and think, okay, now what do I want to do? So I wanted to just try and carve out some time to think about how I want to apply anthropology to my life while I'm still a student. For Harvard, I had a scholarship, but I fell through 2 days before I got my offer. So Harvard isn't one of UCL's partners, so I had to raise a crowdfunding campaign. I had to launch a crowdfunding campaign and raise £64,000 in 4 weeks, which was a very painful experience, but I'm very grateful for it. And while I was in the US, I co-founded a non-profit called the Redefining Boundaries Fellowship. And the basic premise is to bring people from different disciplines who are all interested in technology together. And I raised money from some tech companies, and it funded us to live in San Francisco for a week. And we visited like 8 different tech companies in the Bay Area. And it was just an opportunity to make technology more accessible to people who historically have been ostracized from technology. And then, a few other things that I've been working on. So this is my time at Airbnb. That's the office in San Francisco. And my time there was fascinating for 2 reasons. The first was that Airbnb as a concept, anthropologically, is very fascinating. This idea of redefining what it means for people to live in a stranger's home. That's like a fascinating human concept in and of itself. So that was fascinating. And then the work I was doing at Airbnb was also incredibly fascinating. I was a product designer in the anti-discrimination team at Airbnb. So that's kind of like almost like an independent lab, like a research lab within Airbnb's company. And so we were tasked with the difficult kind of, I would say, remit of having to come up with ways in which hosts and guests could mitigate forms of discrimination, whether that was racial discrimination, sexual orientation discrimination, or religious discrimination, so any form of discrimination. And our job was to design features that could help avoid that. So quite a difficult thing to do because we were almost trying to change human behavior through technology as opposed to changing technology through human behavior. So yeah, this was the office. As you can see, it was very, what's the word? Eclectic, very eclectic. And my team was also very eclectic. Just to give a bit more context about, I suppose, anthropology and tech, I think anthropology teaches us a range of, like, the most important thing it's taught me at least is how to think, what kinds of questions to ask. And I think that's applicable to any job. So throughout my degree so far, I've worked as a research assistant at Columbia University. That was after my first year. Then after my second year, I did investment banking. The reason I wanted to explore banking was because I was interested in what motivates humans to make decisions around money. I didn't get any insight into that. I just spent the whole time in front of 3 computer screens looking at Excel documents. That wasn't really what I had in mind, but I still learned that wasn't what I wanted to do, so it wasn't a waste of time. And then in my third year, as I mentioned, I was at Airbnb, and then last summer I worked at a venture capital firm. So looking at how to allocate money to startups that are at like earlier stages. And so I think anthropology has really helped me because it's helped me think about what questions to ask, why someone has set up a company, what problem they're trying to solve, and then ultimately explore all of those avenues. And so, yeah, I'd love to share the projects I've been working on. I'd say it kind of was born out of my experience at Airbnb. It inspired me to explore other ways that I could apply this kind of anthropological insight to the world around me. And so one day I was flying to Vienna with a friend, and we were on Ryanair, and there's no way to listen, like there's no entertainment on Ryanair. It's quite a sad experience. You just look at the back of someone's head and there's no entertainment there. So I was thinking it'd be great if I could share this solitary experience with someone. And I came up with an idea around co-listening. And so this is what this is like the basic premise behind the project. The insights I gained from doing some ethnographic research were that you can feel lonely even in the presence of other people, and that studying can be boring and it's also lonely, and that silent discos are fun. And so did some ethnographic research last year after my project had put a pause, then came up with this project that I've been working on for the last couple of months. And so the challenge for me was to create a fun and engaging and intimate listening experience for people who are engaged in a solitary activity. That could be like hiking, studying, reading, working out. And then these are some of the skills that I worked on or enhanced. And all of them are related to anthropology in some way. Like there's a discipline called UX research, which stands for user research. And that's basically anthropology. Going into the field at Airbnb, it meant going into a home, like going into a host's home, or watching or observing someone interact with Airbnb's app. That was like all UX research. And then user experience design is turning those insights into features. User interface is similar to user experience, and then content strategy is designing with words. So I think in first year or second year, I read this ethnography about hotel keys, and I think it was inspired by Bruno Latour, and the piece explored how the concept of a hotel key could be chained. So the hotel was struggling because people kept losing their keys, and then the hotel employed some anthropologists to explore what they could do about it. And they realized that people viewed the key as a piece of plastic, not as something that could be used to open a door, or not as something that needed to be held onto or valued. And so by changing how the key was perceived, they ended up adding this huge piece of plastic to the key that meant that you could feel it in your pocket and you knew it was there, and so you remembered not to lose it, I suppose. And that's really inspired how I've approached all of the opportunities I've explored. And so I just wanted to leave you guys with 2 quotes. And again, I'm still on my journey. I'm going to graduate this year. I'm not sure what's next. And I'm still learning and still open to what new opportunities anthropology has. So I'm not set in stone. I'm literally just at the beginning of my journey, and I think we have a really exciting opportunity to change how anthropology is perceived and also change how it's applied to the real world.